In this video, we're going to be finding out a particular, really effective approach for keeping yourself healthy and well-nourished.
Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
Hi, everybody. I am joined by Keli Herriot-Sadler and Sally Fallon-Morrell. They're both from the Weston A Price Foundation. We're going to find out what that is and how that can improve your health. But before I introduce them, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, CryptoRichYT, join my official Telegram announcements channel. My official Telegram announcements channel. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please come over and support my work on bit.ly/CryptoRich3Speak or bit.ly/CryptoRichRumble or bit.ly/CryptoRichOdyssey. These are censorship-resistant platforms. So please support my work there because I'm growing there because of the censorship on YouTube. Okay, Keli and Sally, thank you so much. Which one is Keli so we know who's who? Raise your hand.
I'm Keli.
You're Keli. And which one is Sally?
Sally.
All right. Thank you so much, both of you. Do you want to start, well, one of you want to start by introducing yourself?
Do you want to go, Sally?
Yes. So I guess I'm going to introduce myself as the butter lady. I advocate for butter, and I have done my whole career. I set up with others, set up the Weston A Price Foundation, named after the nutrition pioneer Weston Price. And I also have a book called Nourishing Traditions, which you may have heard about. So who was Weston Price? He was a dentist, and he traveled for 10 years. He traveled to different parts of the world to study isolated people. And he found 14 groups. He was looking at their teeth, of course, and he found 14 groups that had excellent dental health. And by that, we mean no cavities and no crooked teeth. Everyone had beautiful, broad jaws and wonderful smiles. And at the same time, he noted in his articles that they were extremely healthy. They had babies without any problem, no pain in childbirth. They didn't seem to have any kind of degenerative disease. And they were very fine-looking people, tall and broad-shouldered and so forth. So he was, what were the commonalities of these diets? They were all over the
Sally,
world.
before we get into that, right? Forgive me there. One of you needs to turn your WhatsApp indicators off or something because I'm getting pinging noises. And then I just want to introduce Keli.
Okay, you go, Keli. I think that's me, but I don't know how to do that. But we'll see.
Okay. Well, we'll just enjoy the pings.
Yes.
You get a ping. You get another stick of butter.
Yes, right.
Very gold. Organic grass-fed butter. All right, Sally. Keli, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Right. So I got into Weston A Price when my children were young, and I had to put my son on the GAPS diet because he found it hard to digest foods. And and since he's been on that diet, he's just been flourishing. And so the whole family then went on the diet. And my chronic fatigue massively improved. And so I've been following it ever since. So I've just been fascinated by the traditional people and all the different foods they eat. And it just sort of really makes sense to me compared to the sort of nutrition we get from our governments, which often doesn't have much research behind it.
Yes. Well, the sort of fake pretend food. It looks like food that we get from Big Ag and Big Food. Yep. And then Keli, what's your involvement with Weston A Price in the UK?
So I'm chapter leader for Kent, and I've organised an event on Saturday, 17th of February. It's an all-day event in central London, Waterloo Action Centre, just less than 5 minutes walk from Waterloo Station. And we've got Sally, wonderful Sally, talking on a Zoom from America. And we've got great homeopath, Dr. Jodie Carhill, Heather Kasser, who's the Dean of the Institute of Optimum Nutrition, talking about wise women and fats and proteins, and Jane Lloyd, amazing researcher in bioresonance, and myself and a friend who are both nutritional therapists, and we're talking about how to support your gut.
Fabulous. And that's in central London, and I'll have a link to that in the description below, February the 17th. And I know everybody who's watching, they're free that day. And they're available to attend, and Waterloo is very convenient for everybody who's watching. So get yourself signed up, and you'll have something to do that day and get healthy. Thank you. Thank you. And then Sally, sorry, I interrupted you.
That's quite all right.
I want you to go. There's something I know about Weston A Price because when I went high fat, low carb, what was it? I read Jared Diamond's essay, "The Worst Mistake in the History of the Human Race," and I thought nuclear arms or the AK-47 or the internal combustion. No, he said agriculture, and it boggled my mind. I thought, let me try this out. So I cut out refined carbs, and then I started exploring, and I came across Weston A Price's work, and I've done all sorts of variations, like cousins of that, and now I eat animal, fruit, and honey, raw honey. That's pretty much what I eat: animal, fruit, and raw honey. And I knew about the wide jaws and vitamin K2 and the great teeth that he discovered. I didn't know painless childbirth.
Yes, because when the face is broad and the teeth are very straight, the pelvic opening is round instead of oval, and the round opening is what is best for childbirth. And those are the two things that explorers commented on when they came to an isolated tribe. First was what beautiful teeth they had, and secondly, how easy it was for the women to have their babies.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. So what was the commonality of all of these diets? I mean, some had grains. They were agriculturalists. It wasn't that they were farming. Almost all of them were farmers. But they had very high levels of the vitamins that we get in two places. We get them in animal fats and organ meats, okay? The very foods we're told not to eat. And butter is a particularly good source of these vitamins. It's A, D, and K, especially if the animals are eating green grass. So it is a sacred food. It was valued for having healthy babies and easy childbirth and preventing cavities and having very attractive children. So we also recommend that people eat liver, that they cook in lard, that they do all these old-fashioned things that make the dietitians clutch their chest in pain when they think about it. But we have been so propagandized by the industrial seed oil industry.
Yes.
And to me, that is the number one problem with the modern diet, the industrial seed oils.
Okay, we'll come to those in a moment. Just something to say about the butter. It's got to be grass-fed. Cows that have been fed
if you can get it, but even if you can't get it, you still need to eat butter. I totally agree with you, and we can get grass-fed butter in our supermarkets. It comes from Ireland.
There we go. Yep.
Or New Zealand, and that should always be the first choice.
Yes, Kerrygold butter. That's right. That became a staple in our house.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the seed oils. By this you don't. So you said cooking lard. So also beef dripping.
Yes, beef drippings are great. Yeah.
Beef dripping, lard. What else is there? Other animal fats?
Coconut oil is okay. That's not an animal fat. Duck fat and goose fat are excellent because they're so rich in vitamin K.
Okay. Chicken fat?
Chicken fat is fine too. I think it'd be a little bit more prone to burning than the duck or goose fat, but yeah.
Right, and ghee, of course, which has special powers or something in Ayurvedic medical tradition.
Yes, it was a sacred food.
Yeah, and then in Britain we can have the choice of ghee from butter or ghee made from vegetable oils.
Now that's what they're selling in India. I forget the name of it, but it's this plant-based ghee. Please do not be deceived. These are extremely toxic products. And they are just what Dr. Price called displacing products. They displace the good fats. Right. So if you're using margarines and spreads and vegetable oils, you are not using the good fats, which is butter, lard, tallow, and so forth.
Okay. Now, I'm going to come to the seed oils again, but what about olive oil?
Okay, olive oil is kind of a special case. It's okay for your salad dressings, but we highly recommend that you subject your olive oil to what we call the toothpick test. Put a small container in the fridge and see if after a couple of days a toothpick will stand up in it, that it gets semi-solid.
Yep.
And because a lot of olive oil is high in omega-6, and so it's just like a seed oil.
Okay. So then if the toothpick that in the olive oil in the fridge doesn't stand up,
doesn't stand up,
so it falls to the bottom, then don't have that olive oil.
No, it just falls over.
Falls over. Okay. Okay. Interesting.
You know, everything has been pushing us towards what they call polyunsaturated oils. These are the oils that are liquid even in the refrigerator. And this is absolutely what we should not be eating. They are extremely dangerous. They break down, they oxidize in the body. They eventually break down into what's called aldehydes. Think formaldehyde.
Yeah.
And I can tell you why morticians are telling us they don't need as much formaldehyde for the bodies anymore, because your body is already semi-pickled from eating the vegetable oils.
Okay, I didn't know that bit. I mean, I don't have vegetable, except in processed foods. When I have processed foods, it's all cooked with vegetable oil.
Oh, yeah.
So you mean sunflower oil, rapeseed oil, corn oil,
Soybean oil, corn oil, rice bran oil, grapeseed oil. And the soybean oil has the additional problem is that it's high in estrogens. In one estimate, there was more estrogen, or about the same amount of estrogen, in a tablespoon of soybean oil as there is in a birth control pill.
Right. Wow.
I don't think any guy knowing this, or any woman, would touch soybean oil
if they knew that. And then the thing, I do occasional videos with a guy called Russ Maher, who's a critical care cardiologist nurse for many, many years, and he says the problem with a particular medical intervention is that it encourages the body to produce estrogen, and that's carcinogenic. So then soy oil would be carcinogenic. It's one of the things it would do because it encourages the body, because what estrogen does, it encourages the body to produce more cells to replicate.
Yeah, and also the oils themselves are highly carcinogenic. Highly carcinogenic. Recent study, well, not recent, back in the 1990s, they gave cancer cells or carcinogens to rats, and the rats developed tumors. And then they gave them different types of oils. If they gave them the liquid polyunsaturated oils, the vegetable oils, the tumors grew and proliferated and metastasized. If they gave them saturated fat, the tumors stayed the same. If they gave them conjugated linoleic acid, which is only in animal fats of grass-fed animals, the tumors shrank.
Oh.
So I think people need to know this. You know,
Yeah.
We have so many children with cancer today. Does anyone tell them, please give your precious child grass-fed butter?
Yeah.
Because that's going to help shrink their tumors.
That's extraordinary. Okay. And I mean, you've said plenty about seed oils, but surely government and big pharma and big ag and big food, they care about us, and
Surely they do.
low cholesterol, I can't say cholesterol, so forgive me, right? But low cholesterol and low fat and low calories and everything, that's all good for you.
This is a death diet. It doesn't kill you immediately, but over several generations, it leads to infertility and early death.
Okay. Now, I have a problem here, Sally. I'm trying to push back, right? But the thing is, I've listened to your 2-hour video on the oiling of America, right? And I've listened to other stuff and looked into it myself, and I don't take the seed oils, right, myself. So I'm finding it difficult to challenge you here, right?
I don't mind.
But what are like people's objections, or when they realize this, how can they tell that what you're saying is actually accurate and you're not being funded by Kerrygold?
Yeah, well, I'm not. And the Weston A Price Foundation doesn't get any funding from the government or food industry, and I'm not paid a salary. I don't get anything for my work with the Weston A Price Foundation. So I'm clean, okay? But this is a huge, huge industry, and they fund a lot of things. They're certainly behind the physicians' push for low-fat or polyunsaturated diets. We have proof of that. So this is a huge, gigantic industry. They're probably the biggest and most powerful lobbying group in our country, but they keep very quiet. Nobody knows they exist.
Okay. And I know there's a correlation between the increase in heart disease as measured by the number of cardiologists there have been since seed oils came about.
Well, the first heart attack in this country was recorded in 1921.
Okay.
And by
whoa.
Yeah.
So there were no heart attacks before 1921?
No. There was some heart disease. It was usually heart failure, a slow decline in the heart muscle after a very serious bout of typhoid fever. So that was the type of heart disease that we had. Now it's, there's many types, but heart attack is one of the main ones. And by 1950, there were 300,000 a year. And today there's about 650,000 heart attacks a year. This is a new disease. And it's gone in the opposite direction of our consumption of animal fats. As we've stopped using lard, as we stopped cooking in tallow, as we stopped eating butter. I mean, butter consumption has plummeted in the US from 18 pounds per person per year in 1900 to 4 pounds per person per year today. And many people won't touch it because of all the propagandizing against animal fats. And this started in 1913 with a book called The Story of Crisco, telling moms why if you used Crisco, your house was cleaner, you were more modern, your house didn't smell bad, and your children would have better character if you cooked in Crisco instead of lard. So this was a deliberate campaign. They knew how to push all the buttons of the up-and-coming American housewife.
And Crisco, I know, was made from cottonseed oil.
Yes, which has also, and we're about to really look into this, but cottonseed oil has another toxin. It's called gossypol, and it's very toxic and can cause heart attacks.
Right. Okay. And Crisco came about because of electrification in the United States, and the cottonseed manufacturers, producers, they wanted to.
They used to use cottonseed oil for candles.
Yeah.
Partially hydrogenated, hardened cottonseed oil, they used it for candles. And when the candle business dried up, they had to figure out something else to do with all this cottonseed oil, and why not feed it to people,
Let them eat candles.
Yeah, let them eat candles, right.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. So one thing to avoid are the vegetable seed oils. And you said the omega-6. For those that don't know, what is the difference? Why is omega-6 such an issue?
Well, there are several types of polyunsaturates. Omega-6 is the most common type. And the body, you do need a little bit of omega-6, what you get just from eating a normal diet. But if you have too much, it gets built into your cell membranes and causes all kinds of problems. And as we said, it breaks down, it causes oxidation and breaks down into aldehydes.
Okay. Now you're saying that seed oils are the absolute worst of all the food groups.
Yeah. No, there's other bad things too, but I put seed oils at the top.
So what are the other bad things that?
Well, refined sweeteners. And by the way, a recent study, 2020, found if they would get rats addicted to sugar, if they fed them a diet of 40% lard, they didn't want the sugar. So Americans are addicted to sugar, right?
Right.
I watch supermarket baskets. I see what's in them, okay? And what if there was something that made you just not want the sugar? And the animal fats do that. If you're eating a diet with plenty of animal fats, I'm sure you can attest to this. Your desire for sugar just goes away.
Yep. I mean, I think I said to you before we started recording. I've been paleo, primal. I've looked at the stuff on Weston A Price and tried some of it. I'm a bit lazy though. I've done keto. I've tried keto carnivore. I've never gone full carnivore because I'm unwilling to give up onions and garlic and the spices necessary.
And you don't need to. You don't need to.
No, I'm not giving up masala for my curries. I'm not. And I've never stopped eating fruit. And now I'm eggs and meat and raw milk kefir and fruit. And a little bit of raw honey as a treat every now and then.
Well, the raw milk is a very important part of our diet, raw milk and cheese, because you do need calcium.
Yeah.
And the raw dairy products are the best source of calcium in the Western diet. If the cultures did not have milk, they didn't milk animals, they would grind up bones of birds and small rodents and put that powder in their food. And I don't think we want to do that. I'd rather have a glass of milk.
Yes. No, I think when I haven't had pasteurized milk, I don't know for how many years, because I get bloating when I have pasteurized milk.
Yeah, I break out into rashes. My grandson gets asthma, but the raw milk does not do that to you.
It tastes so good. I just had a sweet before I came on. Okay, so you were talking about sugar, right? And sugar's in just about everything. So. And you're actually saying that the synthetic sugars like aspartame and sucralose?
Well, I'm talking about refined sugars, first of all, which are sugar and high fructose corn syrup, corn syrup, all those refined sweeteners where they've taken all the minerals out. And then we have even worse, because they want to capture the people who know that sugar's bad. It's the aspartame, the artificial sweeteners.
Right. Okay. So don't have those. Um, and I know there's a big difference between raw honey and supermarket honey. Supermarket honey will have been adulterated, perhaps, and
A lot of it's just high fructose corn syrup with the flavorings in it. So honey, you need to spend a lot of money on your honey
it's so
because
it's so worth it. There's a video I saw on YouTube about this journalist who went to live with the Hadza people in Tanzania. There's only
yeah,
about 1,000 people left living like how they live, and the guy wanted to find out, well, what's the meaning of life? What's important to them? So he had a conversation with the chief. What's really, really important to you? What's it all about? And the chief goes, meat, honey.
yeah, I heard about that one.
Honey. That's what life is all about. Meat and honey.
And I do agree that we need a little bit of sweetness in our food. We have a sweet taste in our mouth and it needs to be satisfied, just like we have a salt taste in our mouth. It's there for a reason because we need to salt our food. We need salt. But of course, we overdo and we are eating far too much sugar.
Yeah. Well, I reckon that hunter-gatherers, they come across a fig tree in fruit. I mean, if that was me, I would just sit at the base of the tree.
Well, yeah, and that's right. I was reading about this guy, and I think his name was Williams, and he was a prisoner in Australia, and he's escaped, and he lived with the native people. Well, first of all, he didn't live with anybody. He was on his own, and he was just eating oysters and mussels and things. And he said he never really felt good until he started eating fruit. And once he added the fruit to his diet, then he said, this is the perfect diet. It's a complete diet for me. He felt terrific.
Yep.
And I think that's because you get too much protein. The body does need some carbs. And
Yes.
as you know, with eating fruit, the body does need some carbs.
Yes. Okay. And then the reason why we like fruit and we have a sweet tooth is because it's good for us. It's nature telling us,
Yes.
eat that, it's good for you. And then fruit is designed to be eaten
When it's ripe. Yeah.
when it's ripe, right? Which is why we don't like the tart fruits.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. So now you said refined sugar. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the work of Dr. McCullough.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't know if you've heard of Ray Peat and the Ray.
Oh, I know about all those people. Yeah.
You know all of them, right? So a friend of mine who's been high fat, low carb with me for many, many years, he's now added in. I mean, he has table sugar. From Ray Peat that you've got to have sugar and stuff. I haven't gone that far, so I stick to fruit and honey, right?
Yes, which is fine. Yeah. I come at it from a different perspective of all these guys. I call all these diet schemes because they're sort of artificial diets. And I come at this as a mother and a grandmother. And what I like to see is children cleaning their plates and being completely satisfied and happy and not feeling that they are excluded by something in the diet. And, I raised 4 children, ravenously hungry children. I'm sorry, you cannot do that without carbs.
Right.
We had brown rice, we had sourdough bread, I did corn tortillas, but I did grass-fed meats and lots of good fats.
Right. Okay. Now, so the sugars are harmful. The refined sugar, sorry.
Yes. Yes.
And the substitutes. And then what about carbs, refined carbs?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm talking as a mother, okay? You have to be careful not to be too strict. I didn't feed white bread at home, but I knew they were going to eat it outside the house. And you just hope that the diet is nutrient dense enough to protect them from those kinds of things. You cannot lock them in a closet or always be lecturing them because they will rebel and they will want to go out and eat junk food.
Yep. Okay. But for adults and the nutritional quality, or what does Weston A Price say about them, or the foundation say, and what did Weston A Price discover when he was researching these 14 groups, isolated communities?
Well, they were in excellent health, and they ate the foods that were there. Big emphasis on the organ meats. That's what they ate first. Emphasis on
with regards to the grains, because they fermented them, didn't they?
Yes, they soaked or fermented them or made them sourdough. The first population that Dr. Price visited was the Swiss, isolated Swiss, and their diet was basically raw dairy foods and sourdough rye bread. They also had some meat, organ meats, soups and things like that. Very few vegetables, and they didn't even have fruit, really, because there was such a high altitude. but they were superbly healthy. But they did have, the bread was a very important part of their diet. And I always like to point out how this is the complete opposite of the paleo diet. The premise of the paleo diet is that we have these two foods that are new to human evolution, so to speak, and they are dairy foods and grains, and we shouldn't be eating them. And here was the very first population he visited. Their diet was based on dairy foods and grains, and they were perfectly healthy.
Right, but they were fermented grains, and it was raw dairy.
Yes, and it was raw dairy. Yes.
That's a big, big difference.
Yeah, okay. Whole dairy and pasture-fed dairy. It's what we call real milk.
Real milk. Okay. All right. Now, I forget the name of you probably remember, but he wrote the book, The Grain Brain, and there's another book, Wheat Belly.
Wheat Belly.
Yeah, so I read both of them many years ago, and it's all about the damage that refining.
Yeah. Well, part of the problem is in about the late 1990s, the FDA approved spraying Roundup on wheat and other grains, but especially wheat, 2 days before harvest as a desiccant. And so you're getting the full brunt of the Roundup in your grains. And I always say the most important thing to have organic is your grains, because you're just getting a wallop of Roundup in conventional grains. And that really adds insult to injury. All grains are difficult to digest. That's why they need that pre-digestion and the soaking and the sourdough and so forth. But if in addition to the challenge of digesting grains, you have Roundup on them, it's a huge load for your body to overcome.
Okay. Now, is that just in the U.S. they're using Roundup?
I think it's everywhere. I mean, if you're importing grains from us, right?
Okay. And fermenting, would that get rid of the Roundup?
No, not something that's been sprayed on so recently. Right. In the ground, the Roundup will eventually break down in a couple of years, but it takes time. Yeah.
Oh my God, yes. Okay. All right. So I was just thinking, I listened to a video, the Duran and Robert Barnes, and he was talking about how in Pennsylvania, the government are going after Amish farmers. Yes. And they probably have the healthiest, tastiest food of any Western nation.
A little caveat there.
Okay.
They eat lots of sugar and white flour.
Right.
Lots of sugar and white flour. Now, there is a kind of division in the Amish community over how to eat. And they eat lots of seed oils too, sunflower oil. And, they've been victims of this propaganda just like anybody else.
Okay.
Still, we're very grateful to the Amish farmers because some of them have gotten the message and farm the way we think is appropriate.
Yep, and they're great for raw milk.
Yeah.
If you want raw milk and you're local to them, they're really great for raw milk. Okay, now vegetables. But by the way, just I've never been carnivore. I've been close, right? I've been vegan.
Oh,
for a year. I was young.
Yeah.
It was many years ago.
Yeah, it's huge propaganda against our young people. The very time when they need a nutrient-dense diet, they're told to eat a diet that's very, very unnutritious, very depleted.
Yes, but climate change, and we're all going to die, and cattle are going to kill us.
Yeah. Well, climate change is a scheme to prevent the poor from entering the middle class and to push the middle class back into poverty. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Not about climate.
And Sally, I have a particular perspective on this as well. The continent, which is a net importer of hydrocarbons, is not self-sufficient in hydrocarbons, Europe, is telling the rest of the world to do without.
Yeah.
European imperialism rises again. Before civilization was Christianity.
So right. I totally agree with you. Colonialism in another
form. No longer Christianity to plunder resources and civilize the savages. Now it's going to be climate change. We know what's good for you. No development for you in Tanzania. No development for you in Bangladesh.
Yeah,
by the way, we'll use child labor.
People are longing to come into the modern world and to have the best of the Industrial Revolution. And they're being denied this because of climate change. And by the way, Europe, gone to all this green energy. What are they doing? They are relying on Russia for oil and gas. It's been great for Russia.
Well, yes, but unofficially they're buying it off India because they're not going to buy it directly. So India gets
coming through India, right, or Istanbul, but whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Back to food because we want to. So I was vegan for a year, and then I've been vegetarian for 4 years. Very interested in being vegetarian and going to Pakistan. And I said, Betty, have you become a Hindu? Like, no. No, I just don't eat meat. Okay, we'll make you a vegetarian dish. So I turn up and there's dal with chicken in it. That's a vegetable dish. It's not,
Chicken is a vegetable, right?
right, that's right. It's not a real meat. It's not lamb.
But it does have a lot to do with agriculture because they're going after the animals. And I'm a dairy farmer in southern Maryland, and we're watching this very carefully because they're trying to do things that allow them to expropriate farms where the animals are outside.
They want to capture the food supply chain.
Yeah.
And just on a side note, there's all the farmers' protests going on in Europe currently, and the destruction of food processing plants and factories in Europe and the United States. Just dozens and dozens and dozens of them catching fire. Just like Stalin did. Let's get rid of the food.
Or how to get rid of those pesky farmers.
Yeah, because of climate change. Because farming is really, really bad for the environment. Funding war isn't.
Yeah,
That's
right.
okay. That's okay. Destroying leveling
And,
Gaza.
and there's so much more money to be made from unhealthy people than from healthy people. There's no money to be made from unhealthy animals. So they give the animals what they need, including, milk replacer for animals contains animal fat. But formula for babies does not contain animal fat. So they want the babies to grow up unhealthy, but they want the animals to be healthy.
Yes. Okay. Now, back onto plants, right? So I've been vegetarian for 4 years. I'm not going to make that mistake again. What about the argument from the advocates of the carnivore diet that plants contain toxins? The way that they defend themselves is through poison. There's oxalates and phytates and lectins. Plants are
poison. Have to be prepared properly, usually by cooking. Reduces them quite a bit. And also there's this hormesis principle where a little bit of these toxins primes you to deal with them, but you don't want too little or too many. So I'm fine with vegetables. I'm mostly cooked. And you have to remember what the main purpose of vegetables is in the human diet, and that's as a vehicle for butter. That's why we eat vegetables. With the butter on them. Lots of butter.
I like that. I remember my first high-fat meal. I think it was lamb, and then a couple of fried eggs, and then some slabs of Kerrygold. And I thought, I'm going to die of a heart attack, right?
That's what they want you to think.
Yeah. But I didn't. I'm still here. Okay.
You're still here. You didn't die.
Still here, right? So the plant's got to be cooked properly. They're good for us. There's still nutrients in them, not necessarily as bioavailable as in organs, right?
Right. They're vegetables are a big luxury. And they're expensive, and they don't give you a lot of nutrients, but it's a nice addition to the meal. And again, if you're using them as a vehicle for animal fats, cream or lard or whatever, butter, then they're fine.
Okay. All right. So eat your greens, have your fruit, have your raw dairy and your raw honey, and good.
Eat liver once a week. That's a big rule for me. Eat liver once a week. It's the most nutrient-dense food. It can be pate, it can be liver sausage. The Europeans are much better at this than Americans are. You have great ways to eat liver. Yes. And we don't have that so much in America.
Yeah. Now, what about egg yolks?
Yes. And so eggs, especially the yolks.
Yep.
And I was on an interview the other day, and she said, well, of course, you're not recommending eggs and bacon for breakfast. And I said, yes, I am. I said, that's a great breakfast. And we use pastured eggs with extra yolk and cream and cook them in butter, and we have a couple of slices of bacon. That's a great breakfast.
Okay, just on eggs, we have chickens, by the way. We don't have enough chickens for the amount of eggs that I eat. We only have 2. We might have 4, but I'm saying we need 10 or 12 or something. But what's the best way of eating them?
Well, the whites definitely need to be cooked, and traditional cultures did cook the whites. The yolks can be eaten raw or cooked. A great way to eat egg yolks is to stir it into properly prepared grains. I'm thinking of Iran, where they stir the egg yolks into the rice. That's very traditional.
Right, or bone broth. Drop some egg yolks.
Yes, egg drop soup, and we haven't mentioned bone broth yet. But all traditional cultures made broth out of the bones and the tough pieces of meat that had a lot of tendons. That gives you a number of important things. One of which is glycine, which you need to balance the methionine in meat, and it's very important for your sinews and your joints and everything. And also for mood, glycine regulates dopamine levels in the body. You don't want your dopamine too high or too low. You want it just right. And that's why we say chicken soup for the soul, because chicken soup, there's a scientific reason why it makes you feel good.
Wow. I know, I get it, because my mum was a homeopath,
Uh-huh.
and I know when I've been in Pakistan or when I was in the UK and, a little kid and I'm ill, my mum, my aunties, they'd give me what's called yakni, which is chicken broth.
Yeah,
You're ill, you have
absolutely.
yakni.
And it made you feel good.
Yeah, well, I was hungry. I was like, yeah, I'll have
Yeah.
it. Yeah, but we don't do that here. We don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have a lot of our members make broth at home, and there's a big market for properly made broth. Unfortunately, what you buy in the supermarket is just water with a lot of flavorings in it, including
Very
MSG. That's the third really bad thing in the diet. First is the seed oil, second is refined sweeteners, but MSG is a fake flavor, a fake meat flavor. And it actually affects the hypothalamus. There's a lot of research on this. And the hypothalamus is, first of all, helps regulate weight and appetite. So one of the reasons these kids are getting so fat so young is because the food has MSG in it. And the hypothalamus, that's where we produce oxytocin, the cuddle hormone, makes us feel cuddly and kind. It regulates all the sex hormones. It's really an important gland in the head. And MSG kind of messes that all up.
right. Okay. Okay. So we're clear about the stuff to avoid. We've said about the stuff you can eat. Um, what about fasting?
I'm a big advocate of intermittent fasting, skipping a meal. That's a great way to lose weight, is to just eat 2 meals a day, especially as you get older. I wouldn't recommend this for children because they're hungry all the time. But
Sure.
as we get older, it's a great way to lose weight. And after 12 hours of no food, your body releases toxins from the cells and so forth.
Okay. So it
I'm
gets rid of.
not a, I'm not a big advocate of fasting that goes on longer than 18 hours.
Well, but wouldn't it have happened with hunter-gatherers that they might have had to go a few days without food?
Yes, especially the men. And the men were better at this than the women. And I know I can't do that. I've tried, but my blood sugar gets too low, and it's not safe for me to do this.
Yeah.
But
No.
I do think men are better equipped to go longer without food.
Okay. Now, just on that, you mentioned blood sugar. So, if someone's diabetic or pre-diabetic or doesn't want to become diabetic, could not medical advice here, right? Could this make a difference?
I don't know. I really,
Like
they say
going on the
fast.
Weston A Price protocol, following that.
Well, oh yes, the high fat diet, absolutely. But I have a challenge here for anyone who says that fasting helps you detoxify, or drinking vegetable juices, which is something that I'm horrified by, makes you detoxify. Show me one study, just one study, where long-term fasting or vegetable juices cause you to release toxins into the urine. Just show me one study.
Okay. Okay. But what about helping to regulate insulin levels and
Well, that's where you need the fats. The fats regulate the release of glucose into the blood. Now, insulin produced by the pancreas, the beta cells in the pancreas, that's highly dependent on vitamin D. And you need to get vitamin D from your food. And you're not getting vitamin D if you're eating the standard American diet or British diet, whatever.
no, you got to have raw milk and egg yolks, and I think liver and
Liver,
hot
yeah.
sunshine if you can get it in England.
Yes. But of course, that's not practical in the winter.
Yeah.
And traditional people's got their vitamin D from food.
Okay, and fish as well. Oily
Yes,
fish.
seafood. Shrimp is a really good source. And I know in Africa and India, they have shrimp paste, which I guess is an acquired taste, but loaded with vitamin D.
Okay, all right. Any other food group you want to talk about or mention that we haven't covered?
Well, we like to say that we are not against any food group. We embrace all the food groups, but need to be grown the right way, prepared the right way, and so forth.
Whole foods, not an extruded breakfast cereal.
Yeah, oh, yes. Now that's a terrible thing we do to our grains.
Yep, yep. Okay. Now, if people come to this conference, what are they going to get? Why should they come? They got nothing to do on February the 17th. They happen to be in central London, or it's convenient for them. Why should they come to this conference?
I think they're going to hear inspirational speakers. They're going to make new friends, meet lots of like-minded souls, and also we've got some wonderful nutrient-rich, nutrient-dense traditional foods prepared by our wonderful chef Sonia, who's going to do us a lovely lunch.
Right. Okay. Now you said, Sally, thank you. You said that Sally's going to be talking, but you mentioned some other speakers. What are they going to be talking about? What's this biosensor thing? And
Jane Lloyd is an expert in bioresonance, and
what's that?
It's a fascinating subject. Have you heard of Tesla? He discovered electricity.
No.
Well, back in about 1915 or something, when he was doing all these experiments, he discovered a machine that could harvest a certain frequency of energy, which was a healing energy. And so he did all this research on this machine, and of course, it was never developed, or they didn't do further research on it because Big Pharma wasn't interested in that sort of technology. And in the 1960s, in Russia and a few other countries, they started doing lots of research on it, and they were using it in Russian hospitals, and it was really effective at helping people get better without drugs, because they didn't use drugs in the Russian hospitals. And anyway, it's not known much at all about in the West, but more and more there's research coming out, and different protocols, different inventors are using it in different ways. It's basically using quantum physics and mingling that with our biochemistry. So you need scientists who know about both. And
so people will probably find out get a basic grounding in that and the difference that can make. And it sounds to me like certainly in Russia, it's a tried and tested and proven therapeutic approach.
That's right, yes.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you. And who are the other speakers?
So Dr. Jodie Carhill. So she's a trained medical doctor and also a homeopath. And she's amazing as well. She's going to give people lots of tips about how to improve their immune system using naturopathic techniques. And she also specialises in neurodiversity and supporting people with neurodiversity.
Okay, and just on that, and Sally, feel free to answer this, but Dr. Carhill's work or what Weston A Price recommends, if people have taken particular medical interventions that have compromised their immune system because there's been their novel gene therapies without any long-term testing, and the government really encouraged everybody to have them, and now they're like, oh my God, I wish I hadn't done that, and I've got all sorts of medical issues, right? Could the Weston A Price diet or homeopathy or something else support people in restoring their health, and if so, how?
Well, my take is about 80% of it is the diet. All of these alternative therapies are wonderful. We highly endorse homeopathy, for example, naturopathy, herbs, but you're kind of wasting your time if you're not getting the diet right at the same time. And that other 20% is often what really brings you into health, but it needs to be applied on the basis of also having a nutrient-dense diet.
Okay. All right. All right, Keli, who else?
And we've got Heather Kasser. So she'll be talking about how women can age wisely and the importance of fats and protein in their diet.
Right. I think if I told that to my wife, she'd be like, listen, you need to go. We need to how can husbands get wise? They need wisdom more, right? Okay. All right. No, and I can get that's important, particularly for women. And forgive me, I'm going to tell you a bit about women's experience, right? But allow me this, right? But because of the hormonal changes that they have to go through on a monthly basis, but also in terms of the life cycle, which men don't have. We don't have to go through that. So I imagine that has particular impacts on their health and development and growth and the aging process. Okay. Anybody else, Keli?
Well, me and another nutritional therapist will be how to support your gut health with nutrient-dense foods, and we'll be talking about the 5R protocol. And
what protocol?
The 5R protocol.
5R.
So, yeah. So removing things that you might be sensitive to, like gluten, ultra processed foods, seed oils, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And also then replace looking at probiotics and if you're low, say, on vitamin A, perhaps looking at having liver patty and things like that, organ meats. Also replenish, because some people can have the most fantastic diet in the world, but they're really stressed. And so unless you're in rest and digest mode, you're not actually going to absorb anything from your food. So we look a lot about, how to relax. And if people are really wired and tired, they actually, they don't produce digestive enzymes, stomach acid, the probiotics diminish. So lots of great information like that.
Right, very good, very good. Okay, so that's on February the 7th, Saturday, February the 17th in Waterloo. People who are watching this got nothing to do, and this is perfect for them because they'll learn all sorts of ways about getting healthy, and it's incredibly affordable and convenient to get to. Is there anything, and I'll have the links in the description below, and also links to the Weston A Price chapter in Kent and Weston A Price Foundation. The website for Weston A Price is Weston A Price Foundation. It's so incredibly useful, full of loads and loads of really, really useful articles on all sorts of issues related to health. Okay, is there anything else you want to say, either of you, before we finish up?
I just do want to say I'm doing mine by Zoom. I've had several people email me and say, "Oh, I'm going to see you in London." So, will you see me by Zoom?
Okay, fair enough. You're doing yours by Zoom. Good, no problem. Anything else?
Yes, we're going to have a stall, and so we'll have some of these Weston A Price magazines for sale. Really great resources there for people who want to, dive into the detail.
Yes.
And also, I must say, Sally's got some amazing books, which I highly recommend. Really great for families, who want to improve their health. So that's a classic book that Sally's written, Nourishing Traditions. And then this one is Nourishing Traditions, a book for baby and childcare, which I think is so important for the next generation.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. And Sally, I hope you'll be pleased to know that my children have never been to school. They're 16 and 19 and co-slept and breastfed for at least 2 years and a quarter. I said to my wife, look, I think you should do it for longer. I would if I could. But no, she'd had enough.
Well,
and we baby
carried. About food, the whole business of how you educate your children, that's for somebody else to figure out. So. I have 4 grandsons; they're all in public school. So.
Right, no problem.
So I'm pretty proud of that, actually.
No problem. Okay, all right. Well, thank you both for making yourself available. And anybody watching, please go check out the event, the conference on February the 17th. Check out the Weston A Price Foundation websites. I'll have all the links in the description below. And between now and when I see you next, please keep filling your beings with good health and joy. This is Sally and Keli and Rich signing out. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.